Yeah, we got a couple of items of spending that we really need to take a look at. All right. You guys know about this quote unquote Doge Department of Government Efficiency, and they're doing their bias audits of government spending. You got Elon Musk, who doesn't really have efficient businesses, in charge of this with a bunch of people that are not really qualified to do this at all. I haven't heard of any certified financial examiners on the roster of Doge. I haven't heard of any CPAs or tax auditors on the roster of Doge. And basically, what's going on is just a bunch of tweets in regards to YouTube conspiracy theory, even though some of them actually, have a little bit of interesting query to them. All right. So we're going to check out some of these ones that have interesting query to them. And, we're going to continue on the audits that we do because, you can't trust audits that are biased by Elon Musk because, if we're doing a government audit, we should be doing a government audit, right? We shouldn't just be doing a government audit of quote unquote the left. You know what I mean? It should be a government audit of the government. Elon Musk is not going to look into any right wing spending unless it's something that has to do with something that might affect his businesses or something that might affect his boss, Trump. All right. So we got this tweet right here from this guy named Nick Sortor. All right. And we're going to look at another tweet by him. And then we're going to check out a couple articles. All right. This tweet says, WTF, Rand Paul just unveiled on the Senate floor that U.S. taxpayers spent $4.8 million in Ukraine for social media influencers. So, we got to run this one down the line. How many people voted for this? And let's take a wild guess. What party do you think approved this? let's see what people think. Let's see where people's heads are at. And we spent several hundreds thousand more to send Ukrainian designers to a fashion show in Paris. Americans want a refund plus interest. And we'll actually be talking about this refund plus interest in a little bit.
$4.8 million spent in Ukraine for social media influencers. While you're at it, but the people who vote for this, I've voted against all of this, but the members of the Senate who voted for this spent several $100,000 sending designers in Ukraine to the fashion show in Paris. It goes on and on.
And it goes on, and we will definitely be here for it. Now, how do you even get that money? You know what I mean? And, you got to ask yourself this question. Why aren't voters even made aware of any of this stuff? I mean, this is just bizarre. You know what I'm saying? So next, what we're going to do is we're going to check out another tweet from this guy named Nick Sortor. And you guys will find some comedy in this because there's a black person in it. He has to bring up reparations, which is, very low brow, very low IQ, but par for the core. Nick Sortor says, LMAO, Representative Jasmine Crockett, who I've warned people about for a long time, who has spent years demanding quote unquote reparations, comes out against the Doge dividend. Now, I don't know what reparations would have to do with the Doge dividend. The Doge dividend is not to pay back years of unearned labor and damages from an American apartheid system. Now, the Doge dividend does come from an American apartheid descendant, right, in his work in the government, but it doesn't have anything to do with the American apartheid. So, again, I'm kind of confused about why Nick Sortor would, bring in reparations into this tweet, other than the fact that, he's a cream-coated American for the most part, right? So now here it says, we are not in the business of giving out money. And honestly, I don't know what $5,000 would do for you. Now, this is Jasmine Crockett. All right. And Jasmine Crockett, she doesn't tell the truth in this news clip, which, I mean, is anybody surprised that Jasmine Crockett didn't tell the truth? But I find it fascinating that the pro-crime culture, anti-wealth, monolithian Democrat, I'm not surprised that she doesn't, want this $5,000 for American people. The Democrats are anti-wealth. The Democrats are pro-crime culture. Anything that they can do to keep their constituents in a dependent state while they work for people who are non-constituents is pretty consistent with what they have done their entire existence. All right. So let's check this out, shall we?
Now, President Trump says he likes the idea of giving some of the savings from Doge back to Americans as kind of a dividend. Would you support that?
Listen, he's just telling a lie. He's not the one that had anything to do with the $1,200 refunds that people had during the midst of COVID.
That's not true. If I'm not mistaken, I think that was actually in the news because people were kind of shocked that Trump and AOC both voted for the increase in COVID refunds for people in the United States. So that's definitely not true. Somebody please reference that, cross-reference that, and let me know in the comment section if I'm right or wrong. But I'm pretty sure Trump was pro-refund during COVID. If he was anti-refund at some point, that could be a possibility, but there was times when he was pro-refund, I'm pretty sure.
That was done by a Democratic House and Democratic Senate. Right now, what they're going to do is say, hey, we want to give you a refund, but Congress won't let us because they already know that there's just no money for that. The only reason that those refunds came before was because we were living in different times. This was a time in which hopefully we won't ever go through again.
Now, I want you to pay very close attention. This very talking point that Jasmine Crockett just used, is literally used, by the American Confederates, Trump supporters, Republicans, right-wing, anti-black, white America, people like that, to, attempt to debunk the necessity and appropriateness of reparations for American descendants of slaves, American prisoners of plantations, right? So, yeah, I find it interesting that she uses that as her rebuttal. And I also find it interesting that she has failed to answer the question. I mean, do you support, the dividend or not? I don't see how anybody in their right mind would not support the dividend. But because we lived in the charged political culture, since this is something that came from Trump, of course, Jasmine Crockett has to be against it, despite the fact that, it may be in the best interest. This is something bizarre that you see in American politics. And, it just makes sense as to why things are the way that they are.
At a once in a lifetime pandemic. The bad part is that I don't know if it's once in a lifetime because we know that Ebola, unfortunately, was detected right here in New York here recently. And if we continue down this road of getting rid of scientists or deciding that we don't want to rely on experts as it relates to what they're telling us to do, or we don't want to deal with vaccines and medicine in this country, then we may be facing not only our next pandemic, but our next 2, 3, or 4 pandemics because of their incompetence. So no, we are not in the business of giving out money. And honestly, I don't know what $5,000 will do for you.
Now, I don't know what that has to do with, do you support the dividend or not? She says we're not in the business of giving out money. If we're not in the business of giving out money, then what is all of this spending that Doge keeps finding every 5 seconds? What is all of this money that Doge keeps finding every 5 seconds? Money given out like this. More taxpayer dollars shelled out for nonsense. More taxpayer dollars that have been shelled out for nonsense. Like this. Doge finds $2 billion Abrams linked group. Now, of course, we got to run it down the line like we always do. How many people voted for this? Probably no one, right? Probably no one. Probably, again, be a big no one, right? So let's see what they say here. Doge discovered $2 billion in taxpayer refunds, in taxpayer funds set aside for a fledgling nonprofit linked to perennial Georgia Democrat Stacey Abrams. Okay. The Environmental Protection Agency under the Biden administration awarded Power Forward Communities the grant in April of 2024. Now, I want to ask you guys this question. Does anyone know who or what Power Forward Community is? You know what I'm saying? Sounds like a group of basketball players, doesn't it? As part of the agency's Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund program, Power Forward Communities received the Green Energy Grant despite the fact it was founded months earlier in late 2023 and never managed anywhere near the grant's dollar figure. It reported just $100 in total revenue during its first 3 months in operation, according to its latest tax filings. Power Forward Communities Grant was one of just 8 greenhouse grant reduction funds that the EPA doled out in 2024 that altogether totaled $20 billion. Now, mind you, Jasmine Crockett just sat up there and said, we're not in the business of giving out money. Well, if you're not in the business of giving out money, what's up with this $20 billion? What's up with this? EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin announced on February 13th that his staff and Department of Government Efficiency officials discovered that the Biden administration parked that same $20 billion at an outside financial institution before leaving office, limiting the federal government's oversight of the program. I mean, so if this isn't money laundering, I don't know what is. The revelation that Power Forward Communities is among the beneficiaries of the funds Zeldin's team located raises ethics questions about how the Biden administration selected recipients of such massive grants and whether it played favorites when doling these grants out. Yeah, of course the Biden administration played favorites when doling these grants out. The Biden administration played favorites when doling these grants out the same way that the Department of Government Efficiency biasly investigates what it chooses to investigate. Abrams was a vocal proponent of the Biden administration's green energy agenda and campaigned for former Vice President Kamala Harris. It also appears to validate concerns expressed for years by Republicans that the Biden administration allies would prop up organizations that were specifically designed to receive federal funding under programs like the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, which was created to operate as a green bank by Democrats' behemoth Inflation Reduction Act. So basically what happened is the Democrats would earmark a large sum of money. These government organizations would pop up. The money that was earmarked would then be doled out to these government organizations. Then everything would go dark on the money. When the light came back on, poof, the money was gone, and people that make between $50,000 and $100,000 a year somehow had $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8, $9, $10 million in investment, and none of these people were, buying cryptocurrency, getting huge gains. I made a commitment to members of Congress and to the American people to be a good steward of tax dollars, and I've wasted no time in keeping my word, Zeldin told Washington Free Beacon. When we learned about the Biden administration's scheme to quickly park $20 billion outside the agency, we suspected that some organizations were created out of thin air to take advantage of this. As we continue to learn more about where some of this money went, it is even more apparent how far-reaching and widely accepted this waste and abuse has been, the EPA administrator continued. It's extremely concerning that an organization that reported just $100 in revenue in 2023 was chosen to receive $2 billion. That's 20 million times the organization's reported revenue. Now, here's another question. What happened to the money? Power Forward Community and Abrams did not respond to requests for comment. Power Forward Community was established in October of 2023 as a coalition of groups led by, quote unquote, Rewiring America, a left-wing group that advocates for electrification policies and a transition away from fossil fuel dependence. Now, what did they do, or what didn't they do, where they only earned $100? in an entire year. How did they pay any paychecks out if they only earned $100? Oh yeah, that's right. They got, billions of dollars in grant money. Abrams, who serves as Rewiring America's senior counsel, said at the time that she was, quote unquote, thrilled to be a part of the Power Forward Communities Coalition. I bet, because she was sitting there rubbing her hands together like Birdman, waiting for that check to deposit. This is how we expand access to clean energy, by prioritizing housing, equity, and resilience, she wrote. So I want people to understand, these people put a label on these projects. These people put a label on these organizations, and they sell people a dream. And then what ends up happening is people never see, any return on this. But the politicians that are a part of these initiatives end up walking away million or billionaires. They end up walking away millionaires and billionaires after putting the label of some type of initiative that you may hold close to your heart on their blank check. Like I say a lot of times, people got to stop falling for this nonsense, man. Abrams, who serves as Rewiring America senior counsel, said at the time she was thrilled to be part of the Power Forward Communities Coalition. This is how we expand access to clean energy, by prioritizing housing, equity, and resilience, she wrote in an X post. According to its website, Power Forward Communities is the first nationwide program to finance home energy efficiency upgrades at scale. The group states that its mission is to assist homeowners, developers, and renters with home upgrades, replacing gas-powered appliances like traditional stovetops with electric appliances like an induction stovetop. In its only press release to date, Power Forward Communities said that in addition to induction stove, it would use the $2 billion it had received from the EPA to help install heat pumps, heat pump water heaters, solar panels, home battery systems, EV chargers, and weatherization upgrades. Now, how much of this has actually occurred? For an organization that has no experience in this, that was literally just established and had $100 in the bank to receive a $2 billion grant, it just doesn't fly in the face of common sense. It's out and out fraud. Daniel Turner, the executive director of energy advocacy group Power the Future, alleged in an interview with the Free Beacon. And I wouldn't disagree with that. I wouldn't disagree with that at all. Power Forward Communities lists a large number of partners on its website that it works with to implement its mission. Among its partners are the Southern Economic Advancement Project. People should look into this. Fair Count, two left-wing nonprofits founded by Abrams in the wake of her 2018 Georgia gubernatorial election defeat. All right. So again, this is Southern Economic Advancement Project and Fair Count. People need to look into these. You know what I'm saying? People always are asking, well, where'd the money go? Where'd this, that, where'd the other? Here you go. Here's an instance of where we have information of where some of this stuff might have gone to. Look into it. The Southern Economics Advancement Project, which seeks to boost, quote unquote, racial equity. So we got race simping. Let me ask you guys this question. Shout out to everybody who's the same race as me. Did you guys happen to see an improvement in your bank account or improvement in your financial situation as a result of Stacey Abrams' advocacy for her $100 business getting $2 billion? Let me know in the comment section. And quote unquote, economic power in the South. How many of you all feel economically powerful? Shout out to my man Carlton Way, moving at light speed towards a zero median wealth in 2023. That's another strange flex. Is fiscally sponsored project of the Tides Center. All right. The Tides Center, a group known for giving millions of dollars to left-wing environmental and social activist organizations, according to Influence Watch. Power Forward Communities list of partners also include the American Federation of Teachers and the AFL-CIO, two powerful Democratic-aligned labor unions. American Federation of Teachers President Randy Weingarten and Abrams both serve on the National Advisory Board for Climate Power, which helped launch a $55 million advertising campaign in September in support of Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. And as everybody knows, she lost. President Trump was elected with a mandate from the American people to stop the fraud and abuse by leaders who irresponsibly shoveled boatloads of cash to far-left activist groups in the name of quote-unquote environmental justice and quote-unquote climate equity. Instead of serving the American people, Zeldin said, those days are over. Shortly before leaving office, Biden's EPA parked the $20 billion located by Zeldin's team and Doge officials in an account at Citibank. Okay? Which the 8 recipients of the funding, which in addition to Power Forward communities include groups like Climate United Fund, the Coalition for Green Capital, Inclusive, Justice Climate Fund, have only tapped into a small slice of the funding so far. That the arrangement restricts the Trump administration ability to claw the funds back, though Zeldin has made retrieving the funds a priority. So, you got to ask yourself a question, to the people that voted for this, the people that support this. I mean, like, what do you think about this? You know what I'm saying? How does this make you feel? Why are people still being encouraged to support these people? Somebody make it make sense. Somebody make it make sense. I mean, it just doesn't. It just doesn't make any sense. Now, there's some other information about this situation. We could go into it or not. What I think we might end up doing is we might end up putting the links to it in the description box of this video. And if people are interested in looking at it, they can hit the description box and check out the links. And, if something you want to discuss further, we can actually, do a video about it. But we're going to take a look at this.
Hi, this is EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. One of my very top priorities at EPA is to be an excellent steward of your hard-earned tax dollars. There will be a zero tolerance of any waste and abuse. An extremely disturbing video circulated 2 months ago featuring a Biden EPA political appointee talking about how they were tossing gold bars off the Titanic, rushing to get billions of your tax dollars at the door before Inauguration Day. The gold bars were tax dollars, and tossing them off the Titanic meant the Biden administration knew they were wasting it. Following this revelation, during my meetings with members of Congress, I made a very important commitment to them and to the American people, which I reiterated at my confirmation hearing that if confirmed, I would immediately get a full accounting. Fortunately, my awesome team at EPA has found the gold bars. Shockingly, roughly 20 billion of your tax dollars were parked at an outside financial institution by the Biden EPA. This scheme was the first of its kind in EPA history, and it was purposefully designed to obligate all of the money in a rush job with reduced oversight. Even further, this pot of $20 billion was awarded to just 8 entities that were then responsible for doling out your money to NGOs and others at their discretion with far less transparency. Just under $7 billion was sent to one entity called the Climate United Fund. I'm sure you and I now have some of the same questions. How do these organizations decide how to allocate funding? How much money have they given out so far and to whom? Are there any former Biden EPA staffers who are now working at these entities? Let me make one thing abundantly clear. At this point, there is zero reason to suspect any wrongdoing by the bank. Here's my position as EPA administrator. The financial agent agreement with the bank needs to be instantly terminated. and the bank must immediately return all of the gold bars that the Biden administration tossed off the Titanic. EPA needs to reassume responsibility for all of these funds. We will review every penny that has gone out the door. I will be referring this matter to the Inspector General's office, and we'll work with the Justice Department as well. The days of irresponsibly shoveling boatloads of cash to far-left activist groups in the name of environmental justice and climate equity are over. The American public deserves a more transparent and accountable government than what transpired these past 4 years. We take our obligations under the law as seriously as it gets. I've directed my team to find your gold bars, and they found them. Now we will get them back inside of control of government as we pursue next steps. As President Trump has vowed, we are going to usher in a new golden age of American success for the citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed.
So there's that. All right. So let me know what you all think about this. What do you guys think about this reckless spending? How can any justification of voting for these people be made anymore? It's beyond me, but maybe somebody has the answer. And if you do, please make sure you leave it in the chat. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash that like button. Share this video out to all of your followers. And I will catch you all on the next video. All right.